Hello and welcome in. I am Greg Smith, recruiting extraordinaire for Hail Varsity, and we are back with another official visit preview video. I'm joined once again by Steve Marik, staff writer of Hail Varsity. Steve, how are you this morning, even though I just talked to you a little while ago?
I'm doing great. Greg. I'm excited for the Friday Night Lights event. 7 official visitors we got coming here, so I'm excited to tag along with you and watch them. I guess walk around and meet each other and do all that fun stuff that recruits do.
Yeah, it'll be a fun weekend. There's a lot to come here because we're here to talk about the official visitors and kind of the 7 visitors that they have coming into town. Nebraska does, but like you mentioned, there's also a big Friday Night Lights camp, which I actually think is going to be bigger than that first one. And the first one was pretty good itself. And then on Saturday, we are also going to have the offensive defensive line pipeline camp. The Adidas camp will be back, and I'm curious to see if Nebraska has any former offensive linemen that pop up at that event. Was that first one that they put on? They had the actual pipeline members come back and teach that camp. Teddy Prohaska was one of the people that participated in that camp then. So you never know who's going to be at these camps. So that's always part of the fun of camp season. But we will have much more on that throughout the weekend here, but we're going to talk about official visitors. They had 7 of them on campus this weekend, 3 commits, 4 uncommitted players. I guess we'll start here for you, Steve, and then you can get to asking me stuff. For you, who is the most intriguing guy coming to campus this weekend?
No offense to anybody else, but it's obviously Pop Watson, the quarterback, the 2023 quarterback recruit from Massachusetts. I really like Pop. I think he's a fun guy, not just because of the cool nickname, but I don't know. The kid can sling it. I know he's not going to be throwing on Friday, but I'm just really interested to kind of see him walk around and kind of act like the quarterback of the class, and interact with other official visitors and some camp members maybe. So by far it's the quarterback, William Pop Watson.
It's the funny thing about, having your quarterback commit on campus is that you're right, especially in these types of settings. It's always interesting to watch them just kind of walk around, take in the scene, talk to the other recruits. You're always kind of like, even though like he's been in the class for a little bit now, but you kind of take on an elder statesman or a leader in that class because you're the quarterback. Yeah. I know that he wants to be a guy that does a lot of peer recruiting. He has mentioned that to me I think every single time I've talked to Pop, he's mentioned, being a peer recruiter. I know that Nebraska has given him kind of a list of wide receivers to work on, which is awesome. None of them will be here this weekend. Obviously, they've all been here already for official visits. His visit just didn't line up with those guys. And so that will be just fascinating to see, like, how does he interact with the coaching staff and all of that? Like, all of that will be really fun. For me, it's tough because Dwight Boodle is a guy that I'm interested to see on campus. We just haven't seen him a ton since he committed to Nebraska. But I guess the guy that I'll highlight first is Ryan Robinson, defensive back out of Louisiana. And for a couple of reasons. One, I think he's a really talented kid. He's a 6-foot kid. He's got long arms. He looks just like all the other Travis Fisher defensive backs that he likes to recruit. And that is no knock on him or Travis Fisher. I think Travis Fisher has a specific type of DB that he typically goes after and does a really nice job of recruiting them. And that kid being from Louisiana to me is interesting because he was a part of that kind of slew of Louisiana offers that Nebraska put out once Mickey Joseph was hired, and Nebraska got in on him. So I'm really curious to see kind of what he thinks about Nebraska and how his experience goes this weekend.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the length part of Ryan Robinson because 6 foot, he's lengthy, he's got some wingspan to him. So he fits right along with what Travis, because if you look at Travis Fisher's room, really everyone is tall, is 6 foot or higher. So a lot of them are lengthy like that. So what another official visitor I wanted to get your thoughts on, Dillon Rogers, an inside linebacker from Texas, 3-star guy.
Yeah, I like him. Like, he's a kid that if you see him, like, he looks like no nonsense. I know he's excited to check out Nebraska. It's his first official visit, so he wants to see, and he told me he wants to get in the meeting room with Barrett Ruud and see how they like to use their inside linebackers. That's where they recruit him inside. He's about, I think he's 6'2", 205, somewhere in that range. So pretty similar size to like Ernest Hausman, if you want to think of it that way, when he was being recruited out of of Columbus, but he's really excited to sit down in the film room. And anytime a kid says that I want to just get in the film room and learn from the inside linebackers coach, that tells me that that's a football guy, right? What's one of the things that this coaching staff mentions a ton about the guys that they like to recruit? They like recruits that love football, right? And you just get that sense talking to him. And so he'll be one that I'm really interested in, kind of a runner hitter kid. But Nebraska has a chance to really set the bar here with his first official visit.
And he's not the only one from Texas coming. Tayshawn Wilson, a 4-star defensive back. So is this Brian Applewhite getting these kids out of the Lone Star State? Or first of all, you can just talk about Tayshawn first, a really athletic kid.
Yeah, I think that it does have to do a little bit with Brian Applewhite being down in Texas. And you start to see that, right? As we've already seen, in these, this is the third official visit weekend now in June, but the fourth one overall, because we had that May 20th one, and then they took off for Memorial Day weekend, where you're seeing the fingerprints of these new assistant coaches and the guys that they're able to bring in, right? We had a Bill Bush weekend back in May, right? We've had several Mickey Joseph weekends now. And then we also have Brian Applewhite mixed in there. And I do think that Applewhite played a role in getting Wilson on campus. We talked about Fisher having a type with those defensive backs. Wilson is a little bit different, right? Profiles first, he's a little bit smaller, but he's super fast. Like speed is definitely something, and he's a track athlete that you would know when you're talking about him. Maybe a little bit more of a slot corner. I don't know if that's what you would kind of peg him as, but you need those guys too, right, on your defense. And so I'm intrigued to see kind of what happens with him, because Nebraska needs to continue to push into Texas. We talk about that all the time. Continue to keep that Texas pipeline open, because there's just so many good football players down there.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of another Marcus Buford Jr. He's also from Texas, but not the biggest guy in the world, but just a football player, and he's going to play this year. And I think he's kind of showing you that you don't need to be 6'2" and 210 pounds or anything like that. Marcus Buford's not that big, and he's going to be playing a lot on defense there, so it's going to be really interesting. An in-state kid, Sam Sledge, offensive line from Creighton Prep, coming along. Just what are your thoughts on Sam making it over?
Sam is maybe my favorite offensive lineman in this class. I really am high on his potential. I think Sam could be a really, really good college offensive lineman. And I was glad that it felt like it took a little bit for him to get that offer, and then he committed pretty soon after he got his offer with the new coaching staff came in, because Don Raiola was the one that made that offer to him. But I think he's going to, first of all, with his season, he's going to anchor a really good Creighton Prep offensive line. Stop me if you've heard me say that before. Creighton Prep's offensive line, it seems to always be pretty good. But Sam is a kid that I think will get bigger and stronger once he gets to college, obviously, but also he's just a kid that is going to look forward to coming in and helping a peer recruit as well. I think that one of the things that is going to be a theme coming out of this weekend, because it is going into the weekend, is all three of these commits for Nebraska that are coming in this weekend all told me that they're looking forward to peer recruiting, and it's something that they've been very active in doing. And I feel like that, to me, it feels like it's something that guys always say, but at the same time, to me, it speaks to how excited they are about their future and what they're coming into, and how much they believe that they can they should have other top guys come in with them. I don't think you'd be trying to sell people a bill of goods if you didn't think that the team was going to take off. So that's always encouraging to me, that these guys are so involved and invested in being peer recruiters. And Sledge is one of those guys, beyond being a fantastic prospect.
And the last guy I think we haven't mentioned yet, Hayden Moore, 3-star linebacker from Colorado.
Yeah, he's another kid that they're looking at for inside linebacker. And Colorado is a weird one, right? Is where we've had, like, it's been hit or miss when it comes to Nebraska recruiting Colorado. But I like Hayden Moore. He's an intriguing prospect, a little bit more under the radar. But he doesn't know I don't think he knows as much about the program. He told me that he's looking more forward just to getting to know the program more in depth. He also mentioned Coach Rude, because Barrett Rude does recruit Colorado. That's one of his states. So it's good that he'll have that baseline of knowledge and relationship with Rude before coming in to kind of do the meetings and have the official visit with him and all of that. So I mean, I'm intrigued by his kind of to see what his first impressions of Nebraska are.
Yeah, kind of makes sense in a way. Just talking about Hayden and his kind of experience or what he knows about Nebraska. It's not that much. I guess that's just the way it's going right now with kids, and they aren't fully aware, I guess, of what Nebraska used to be. So yeah, that's an interesting take, and we'll see what he comes away with knowledge wise, what he likes about Nebraska.
Yeah, and we'll see. Like, one of the things too, and we've talked about these in each of the video about kind of commitment watch and who I might think might be on commitment watch from the weekend. And this one is the hardest one to peg out of all of those, because I feel like the rest of the weekends had a handful of guys that were making the trip that were uncommitted, that you felt like had a real good baseline with Nebraska. Nebraska had been making a real good push, like Amari and Miller. Like, you felt like, okay, but coming into that visit, Nebraska was already in a pretty good standing with him. You thought the same thing last week with Brock Knudsen, right? Before he committed. Malachi Coleman, like, you knew where Nebraska was pushing forward in those recruitments. This one is a little bit more where I think they could come out of nowhere with some guys and really make a real solid push to solidify Nebraska, solidify themselves at their top spot and top choice for a school. But it'll be interesting to see if the Huskers can get any commitments out of this weekend, because I think each of the first 2 weekends, right, they've had commitments come out of those official visit weekends. They've been doing a great job with it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they can get some more after this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll see. I still think there's more to come from the previous weekends. I don't think those are over. As you definitely are seeing, guys, we're at this point too, and it's interesting where this visit weekend has kind of been reshuffled a little bit. Like, it was initially scheduled to be a little bit bigger, even though we've got 7 guys coming in. That's plenty. But there were supposed to be a couple other receivers that came in that are not coming in. Some shuffling of the board happening out there. And I think that's a good thing in this case. I don't think it's anything to panic about. But we'll definitely keep an eye on everything that's going on, and make sure you guys are liking this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll have more recruiting coverage coming here and on hailvarsity.com. Make sure you subscribe there. We'll have continued reaction and coverage of the Friday Night Lights camp, the Big Man Pipeline camp this weekend, and I'll be sure to get visit reactions from all of the official visitors that are coming to town. We will catch you guys later.